new vehicle, a lot of times we do clinics with customers, and normally we talk about things like features and styling and packaging and pricing and those kinds of things. But one thing we did differently in the MDX was we did a dynamic clinic early on with current MDX and with other competitor vehicles. And we instrumented the car with telemetry, drove people around, or actually they drove us around. We had a loop, and we took measurements on their driving styles and the things they liked and what they didn't like. And one of the things that you always hear about from people is steering. You always hear people talk about steering and the brakes and the NVH. Even if they're not vehicle dynamics people, you'll always get people give you feedback with those three things. And steering in particular is an area where we had a lot of discussion about what people like and dislike. One of the big change points with the MDX is what we call integrated dynamics. And what we allow is 3 modes of operation to have multiple maps for people to tailor the vehicle to fit to their preferences. So there's 3 maps for steering effort, 2 for the active sound control, 2 for the throttle, and 2 for the all-wheel drive torque vectoring system. And once you choose the preference you like, you have the ability to store it with your key fob so that when you get in the vehicle, it remembers what you liked, or what you chose as your settings. The same way as the seat position, the steering wheel position, mirrors, and those kinds of things are stored, your driving preferences are stored. We really think that's going to be a nice feature for our customers. Now, if you've driven the previous MDX, you know about the super handling all-wheel drive system, and you know about the torque vectoring, and you know about the benefits that it offers for really aggressive handling and also in snow and ice conditions. Torque vectoring only works when you are applying power, right? It distributes the engine torque that's going front and back. It doesn't work in off throttle situations. It doesn't work when you're applying the brakes. Now with the new MDX, what we've done is now extended the torque vectoring using the brake system. So we have a system we call Agile Handling Assist, and what it effectively does is use the vehicle stability system to selectively apply the brakes in conjunction with the all-wheel drive system. The VSA system in our car is a very sophisticated, it's a Bosch ESP8, it's one of the top modulators in the industry right now. Very quick responding, very smooth, very seamless operation. And what that allows us to do is when you're driving aggressively now, when you go off corner or off throttle and you transition from braking into turning, the system has helped get the yaw directionality set up with the car. And then as you accelerate through the curve, the super handling all-wheel drive takes over. It's a really great system. It's so great, in fact, we've also applied it to the two-wheel drive model as well. So it really helps the handling of the two-wheel drive model as well as with the four-wheel drive system. Now, talk a little bit about fuel efficiency. And this is another area we made huge, huge improvements. And we did that by focusing on 3 areas. The powertrain, reducing friction, improving combustion efficiency. Weight, our development team made an all-out attack on weight. We were able to take out 275 pounds out of this vehicle from the previous generation MDX. And we also focused on reducing the rolling resistance of the vehicle. Things like the aerodynamic drag and the tire rolling resistance, brake drag, bearing drag, and so forth. The engine, I mentioned a little bit earlier, again, VTEC, VCM, direct injection, really high levels of efficiency. Also, there have been friction reduction efforts made in the engine, things like the coatings on the pistons. The parasitic losses from accessories have been managed with this new engine as well to make sure they're minimized. 275 pounds have been taken out of this vehicle. The MDX now has the lightest curb weight in its class. And if you look across the spectrum, these are all four-wheel drive V6 models by comparison. Published data, it can be up to almost 1,000 pounds lighter than some of the more heavy vehicles in its class. Aerodynamics, about 18% more efficient aerodynamically. Big efforts to not only massage the airflow on the outside of the car, and the underside of the car, but also the air going through the engine compartment has been optimized. And of course, we have, like a lot of other car companies, use computer simulation now, CFD, computational fluid dynamics, now to simulate that. But that science is still, to be honest with you, it's imperfect. So you still need to go back with some correlation to either a real vehicle or a model to be absolutely precise. And so we've coupled that computer simulation technology with wind tunnel, the tried and true wind tunnel testing methodology. We have a brand new wind tunnel that we just commissioned back in Ohio, and this MDX is the first vehicle that we developed with it. We use a 40% wind tunnel with a rolling ground plane and a very high level of detail, sophistication in the models. It's almost like a real vehicle. This level of detail you won't find, I think, in any other models that people are using. This is the kind of stuff you see typically in the racing world. But because of that, we're able to make huge improvements with the weight down, the friction reduction, the improvements with the engine. The new Mdx now is 6 miles per gallon more fuel efficient on the highway, 2 miles per gallon more in the city, and then with the two-wheel drive, you get further improvement. So it is truly class-leading vehicle. And it's real world. I just last week did another one of these presentations in Detroit. I drove from Columbus to Detroit. The trip computer said I got 29 miles per gallon on the highway, driving 75 and 80 miles an hour all the way there between Columbus and Detroit. And it's relatively flat all the way there. Talk a little bit about some of the technologies in the car. But I'll start out maybe in an unusual place, and that's where the driver sits, right? With it's one thing to bring all this technology into the car, but you need to have a good interface between the driver and the electronics. And with the new MDX, we've improved the display capability. Now have a full color TFT display in the middle. We also have these new steering wheel controls with the rotary dials. They sort of mimic what you would find either on a computer or small handheld electronics. It allows you to scroll through the electronics pretty easily. And again, the idea is to keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. And this is one of the ways we used to do that. Now, talk about the old MDX. This is the picture to the left. We had a lot of technology, but we also had a lot of buttons. And that has been a source of criticism for a while now with our cars, with the button clutter. And how do you find the right button at the right time? And it can be somewhat challenging. So to kind of address that situation, to clean up that clutter, to improve the appearance of the center stack as well as usability.
Take it outside, please.
We've applied touchscreen technology now that has allowed us to make big reductions in the number of buttons. We've gone from 41 to 9. We've carried over the jog knob controls that a lot of our customers still like. Some people still like to use that jog knob as well as the touch screen, so we have multiple ways to be able to put to apply the input. The menu buttons have been more logically arranged around that jog knob. And then the upper display we've kept up near the driver's line of sight, again, to keep your eyes on the road where it needs to be. And I mentioned the touchscreen. Not only do we have the ability to input through the touchscreen, but we have haptic feedback. The screen will vibrate and make a pulse that you can turn on or off if that's not what you like, but it does give you some sensory feedback while you're driving to let you know you've completed an operation. And as you would expect with this kind of technology, you get the latest in the connectivity technology. We know people are bringing in smartphones and things into the car. This gives you a gateway to interact with those things in a safe way with applications like Pandora and AHA. And we also have a new Acura Link service that offers things like remote destination inputs, surface street traffic conditions, and concierge service and roadside assistance if you need it. The audio and electrical system has been upgraded. We've got a big improvement in the amount of wattage going in the system. The speaker count's been improved. The subwoofer's nearly double in size. It's got some really, really strong bass in the back, and then the speaker quality's also been improved. The rear entertainment on the advanced grade now is the the ultra-wide screen that gives you widescreen capability as well as dual input compatibility as well, including HDMI capability and plug-ins conveniently located at the rear of the center console, along with a power outlet. We've got, the upper grade car has auto-ventilated seats. They're ventilated, heated, and cooling. And typically these systems are what I would call a dumb system. The seat works just with a separate set of controls, and the air conditioning works with yet another set of controls. We've linked these two systems now in the MDX so that they were now working together with each other to maintain your comfort, and also to optimize the use of the air conditioning system to optimize the fuel economy as well. So we have an automatic mode for the first time. We've also got a new bidirectional keyless system that's standard on the upper grade, and it's also optional. It's 100 yards range, allows you to precondition the car. Of course, on a day like today, you don't want to walk out to your car and it'd be 150 degrees inside. So this allows you the ability to start the car and have the climate control system working to get the car more comfortable. It has a two-way feedback. It has a row of LEDs across the top that light up to give you the condition of the car, to let you know that the car has received the signal and is operating. Again, we think this would be a really great feature down, especially in this part of the country in the summertime. Talk about the cabin. Now, one of the shortcomings of the previous MDX was, even though it's a fairly big vehicle, 3 rows of seats, once you were in your position in the second row seat, that seat was locked. You could not slide that seat to allow better comfort for people in the third row. So we've addressed that with this new MDX. We have sliding in the second row, but it's also long sliding. It's about 6 inches of total seat travel. And the walk-in features applied both to the left side and right side. We've really simplified the entry for the third row. The current MDX has, or the previous is now it's the old MDX, it has 2 sets of levers beside each other. And oftentimes people don't know which lever to grasp. I've had 2 of these in my house, and my own kids still mistake which lever to use. Maybe it says something about my kids, or it says something about the car. But anyway, they still pull the wrong lever. So with the new MDX, we've simplified that a lot, and now it's just a push button. So one touch is really slick. I think when you go outside, it passes the 5-year-old test. That was my target. I have a seat system so simple that even a 5-year-old could figure out how to get in. And again, we talked about integrating the family into this person's life, and oftentimes at schools I saw parents have to get out of the car to help their kids get into the car. Now that won't be necessary. And not only have we made it simple with the button, we've also reduced the sliding efforts of the seat, so it's much easier to manipulate and move. Sorry, I must have hit the button. Now we'll talk about the cargo area. Cleaned up the cargo area, made it nice and flat. The old MDX had several different angles of seats. When you folded the seats down, it wasn't a nice flat surface. Now it is. A very clean, upscale look. Particularly, we've added this chrome garnish across the back as well, straightened up the sides, flat, and it looks really more upscale and attractive. It also will hold all of the great modules that we found from our customers that they use. So it will actually have more flexibility for cargo than we had in the previous car. We also carried that philosophy forward with the underfloor storage that's in the rear. It's now deeper and bigger than it was in the previous car. So now you have a place to take a laptop or something you want out of sight and put it in that bin and make it fit and get it out of the space. But we didn't forget the driver either. So console use is changing. People are no longer carrying handfuls of CD cases in their console and those kinds of things. Now it's iPads, it's tablets, it's those kinds of things that are coming into the car. So you have to have a place to put those where they're accessible, easy to use, and out of space. So we've made a deep enough console now that's compatible with those items as well as a lady's purse. So you can leave it in there, get it out of sight. There's a sliding tray that goes back and forth to allow partial access. If you want to reach a pack of gum or something while you're driving, you're able to do that as well. We've got, of course, a storage compartment under the armrest that will hold phones and so forth. And then this little tray, It's one of my favorite parts of the car. Of course, it slides back and forth. We applied these little rubberized strips across here. So if you put a phone or anything you want to lay up there, it won't slide around. And again, it keeps everything out of sight. And inside it has all the, you would expect USB connection points and power points and all that inside. Now, talk about the body structure of this vehicle. I mentioned the platform itself is all new. And it's a lightweight. You heard me talk about 300 pounds, but it's also stronger than the previous vehicle. It's been all re-engineered with every safety standard and pending safety item that we know about baked into this car. Now it's based on this idea, and internally we call ACE body structure. We use it in all of our Honda, Acura products, and the philosophy, of course, is that the loads coming into the cabin or into the body structure need to be distributed in multiple directions to protect the occupants. Concentrated loads is what causes damage to the vehicle and what causes injury. So if we can just spread out the loads across the car multiple paths, we lessen the likelihood of injury. So one of the things we have with the new Mdx is this unique structure where the body loads coming in through the frame is split in 3 different directions to distribute the load. The same philosophy applies for the loads coming into the front of the vehicles, and it's distributed around the door ring and along to the back. And this likewise for any rear loads coming into the vehicle rear collisions. We have an extremely strong body structure, even though it's lighter weight. And we have some new technology applied. We are applying a tailor welded hot stamp door ring for the first time in the industry. There's nobody else applying hot stamping in this way. Normally, you get hot stamping, you weld it, you stamp parts and you weld it together and you assemble it to the body as a whole. This is a unitized door ring, all made out of hot stamping that greatly improves the safety. So much so that we expect to get 5-star rating when the government does their safety testing with this vehicle. And then if you're probably familiar with, everybody know the IIHS new small offset test that just started. This is a new test the Insurance Institute came out with that has a 25% overlap, 40 miles per hour driving speed into a barrier, a small barrier. It's a honeycombed or uncushioned barrier. Very, very severe test. And really this is the highest or most stringent type of crash test that there is right now. Now I'm going to see if I can get this video to work to give you some idea of how the new Mdx performs. See if I can get this to actually play. So you can see the deformation. This is an overhead. This is what the barrier looks like. But take note that the deformation essentially stops at the base of the windshield. There is no intrusion. The doors can be opened after this test, and you can easily emerge afterwards. The door skin itself is not even damaged in this test, as you can see. There's very little, all the loads are coming in. There's a little kink you'll notice on the actual car to get further evidence of how the loads are actually being distributed even through the roof of this vehicle as it enters this test. And I'll show you the side view or the overhead, if I can make this one. This one will cooperate. Oh wow, that jumped. Let's see if I can get it to play again. Okay, so notice that the loads are going all the way into the car. You'll see in some of these tests the cars kind of skim off the barriers, but this car is actually absorbing the full brunt of the test. Now what makes this maybe a little bit noteworthy, besides the fact that this car does well on this test, is a couple of things. One is from the beginning we understood that the Insurance Institute was working on this type of test, and we've been studying it ourselves for quite a while. So as we developed this new platform, we worked with designing the body structure to be compatible with this type of test from the beginning. And that's really the best way to do it. Obviously, if you come in after a vehicle's developed and try to meet this test, you throw a lot of weight, and you can't do it as efficiently as if you do it from the beginning. That's maybe point number one. And then point number two is the Insurance Institute so far has started testing passenger cars first and small CUVs. And they're going to work the way up to the more challenging, heavier vehicles. So in this test, the loads that